One thing that I've been thinking about a lot, so on the BYU track team, there's a lot of very, very fast kids. And it's so funny to listen to their accomplishments because they're just so crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I won National Gatorade Player of the Year. Oh, I took third at the Nike Worlds. Or,
yeah,
I went to Ecuador because I ran for the national team. It's just stuff like that. That's probably one of like my proudest accomplishments more than anything is like never even having a chance to run against these guys because they were so much better than me.
Yeah.
But now I'm here.
Yeah.
Lining up against them. And so it's like, it puts me in a mindset like I can do anything. If you're willing to just put your mind to something, like it will happen if it's what needs to happen.
Yeah. Cool. Well, welcome back to the Wilson Seneca podcast, a podcast where we kind of talk to and interview people in the BYU community. Today we have a great opportunity to hear from G.
Yeah, I'm G. I am going to BYU. I'm a sophomore. This is my second semester at BYU. I'm on the track team. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being here. This is really exciting. This is our first BYU athlete on the podcast, which I'm really excited just to kind of get to know a little bit about that process from you and have that conversation.
Yeah, it's been a trip to get here, but I'm glad I'm here. I finally made it down, so
yeah.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. I kind of wanted to start today just kind of getting to know you. So you're one of the roommates of my friend Preston. He was in my ward last year. And we were talking before, you're both from St. George, correct?
Yeah, so I grew up in St. George. Me and Preston went to high school together. And so we were at Desert Hills, just in the south part of St. George. I grew up there. I mean, I moved there when I was 8, so I remember other places, but that's where I'm from. So
that's interesting because I lived in St. George until I was 8.
Oh, really?
And then I left. Yeah.
Really?
I lived on, I think it was hole 18 of the Sand Hollow Golf Course, if you know where that is.
Yeah. I know. Beautiful area.
And then since then, I've just been in the DC area growing up until now, obviously going to school and everything.
Yeah.
That's super cool though.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area. It makes me realize how much I'm not a fan of the snow, but at the same time, it makes it that much sweeter to go home.
No, yeah. I have family down there, and me and my roommates try and escape down to St. George as much as possible during the winter.
That sounds right.
That's super cool. And you obviously did athletics growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of mentioned this in the bio that you sent me, but also I did a little bit of stalking on like your BYU bio and stuff like that.
Yep.
That you kind of come from a pretty athletic family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my dad just growing up, I was always in sports. I started my first like competitive soccer program when we were 8.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 8, it was like the youngest you could go. Before that, I started playing soccer when I was 3 years old. I hopped on my sister's team. She was 2 years older than me. So,
oh, wow.
Since I was 3, I've been playing soccer, kind of stuck with soccer ever since. But my dad played football at Snow College. My mom played basketball at Dixie State. When it was called Dixie State, my sister hopped around from JUCO to D2 volleyball. She was like an All-American. She was a stud. And so, kind of athletics was always the thing growing up.
Yeah. Would you say that kind of influenced your decision on trying to pursue like collegiate athletics, like just seeing your parents and siblings?
I would say kind of, to an extent. Growing up, it kind of just was what I did.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I wasn't good at school. I just wasn't focused on school. I had so many like different things going on, and school's awesome for anyone listening. But that was just my clique was like, I love sports. I really want to like be competitive. And so, but I mean, it does help having college athletes as parents to kind of guide and help me through the process, even though it is a lot different now.
Oh yeah, for sure. So you started with soccer, and it wasn't until high school that you started doing track, correct?
Yeah, so I played soccer all growing up until I was like 16. I dabbled in other sports, but like nothing really stuck. 16 happened, kind of got some big opportunities with soccer. Had some coaches talking to me, but it like, I mean, there gets to a point where you got to burn out. And I think 16 was when I burnt out. And so hopped over to track, hopped over to football, had so much fun, met some of my best friends now, and haven't really looked back. So
that's awesome. And you just like keep going to the track just because you felt like that was your best shot at like going?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely the easiest. I mean, if you think about it, like, so I played football. I was on the varsity football team, and you know, I'm 6'1". I was 155 in high school, so I was pretty skinny.
Yeah.
And it's like every coach has their own ideal player.
Right.
In track and field, that's not the case. If you're running fast, all you got to do
is just numbers.
It's just numbers.
Yeah, it's just who's running fastest.
And that's the beauty of track, but it's also like, you know, you can't really, there's no, I mean, there probably is some politics somewhere, but
yeah,
in the end, if the numbers show, the numbers are going to pull you up.
No, yeah, for sure. Football, I played football in high school.
Oh, yeah?
And it definitely is a little bit, there's a lot of politics in it for sure.
Yeah.
Like, who do you know? Who does your coach know? I don't know. I kind of pursued like playing potentially football in college, and like went through a lot of camps and met with a lot of coaches and stuff like that, and ended up you know, having interest from like D3, D2, but it wasn't like I ended up serving a mission out of high school.
Yeah. And
then I came back and I was like, I think that's like not for me.
Yeah, it's crazy how much of like a commitment it is. I mean, everyone knows that it's commitment, but like until you do it, it's like, shit.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like a full-time job.
Yeah, for sure. There's times when, you know, you just can't catch a break.
Yeah.
But
no, I imagine.
But yeah.
So what was like the recruitment process like? Like at what point did it go from I'm just doing athletics to, okay, I have an opportunity to do this at a collegiate level at some point?
Okay, so to give some background, my dad was the track coach.
Okay.
For my high school track team. And so he always tried to convince me to run track, but I was always playing soccer. It was in the same season. But like I said, I kind of just switched over. So I hopped in like not halfway through the season, but I never really practiced. So let's say like the end of March, beginning of April, I just hopped in. My dad was coaching me, teaching me everything. I was learning. I didn't realize like how good of an opportunity it was until after the first meet of my junior year. And I'm a COVID senior, and so I didn't get a senior year of track.
Oh, wow.
And so after the first meet of my junior year, I'm like, you know what? Like, there's potential to, like, actually do something here. And so that's kind of when I, like, committed, if you will, to track. I still, like, left the option open for football. And I actually had some opportunities for football, but not big enough ones to, like, entice me to go. And so halfway through the track season, I was like, you know what? This is it. Let's see what we can do with this.
You decided to serve a mission out of high school, correct?
I did, yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, like a mission was always something that, like, I mean, it's Utah culture, and so it's kind of expected of you, but at the same time, my parents were leaving it open for me.
Yeah.
I remember I told my dad I was going on a mission, and he was like very surprised.
Really?
You know? And so, like, you say that to them, and they realize that, but I was going to these track camps, and there were, I mean, the three schools that I was looking at, because I was fast enough to go to college, of course, but it wasn't like I was going to a Power 5 school right out of high school, especially with, like, my lack of experience. But there were two colleges that I was especially looking at, Weber State and Utah State.
Gotcha.
And I really wanted to go to Utah State. It didn't end up working out, but both coaches, I remember the Utah State told me first, they're like, hey, we would love to have you on the team, but, like, we have no spots right now. And, like, we know you're kind of planning on serving a mission, but not really sure. Just know that if you come back in 2 years, we for sure have a spot for you.
Really?
And then I talked to Weber State, Coach Hogan, phenomenal coach. She actually moved down with me to BYU.
Well, cool.
Different instances.
Yeah.
But we're both here now. And that's one thing that she told me too, was like, hey, like, we can offer you a lot more money if you come in 2 years. And so like as I'm thinking about it, obviously I want to do this. I want to do track, but it's also like there is some pride about like getting out of high school and like not having to pay for college.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have that opportunity unless I like served a mission. And so that's when it kind of clicked, like, oh wow, like these opportunities are here. It's just I got to do something for 2 years.
Yeah.
Or else I got to pay for school, which is something that like, I kind of want.
Right. If you can get it for free.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I started just like, I just flipped my mindset. Like, okay, I'm serving a mission. Like I got nothing better to do for 2 years. But then I started like the process and I was like, okay, like let's get this going. And so track was also kind of, apart from my loving parents who wanted me to go on a mission and kind of the cultural ideals that we have, track was kind of the catalyst to put me in the mission portal.
Interesting.
And to kind of get me on my way, which I'm grateful for, honestly.
That's really interesting because that's like very different from my experience growing up on the East Coast. Like that was one of my internal like challenges, was like, I think I want to serve a mission, but like I don't see that working out with me playing sports in college.
Really?
Because like people out there don't understand like why you would leave for 2 years and like you're not going to be working out the way you would be if you were just going straight to the program. And I have a buddy, he was in my MTC district. He got recruited by Bronco Mendenhall to play football at UVA. Okay. And he went out, served his mission, came back. Bronco had retired and just had like a rough time because like the coaches didn't really understand why someone would go serve a mission. They're like, you've been out of it for 2 years. And like, I don't know, just, it's very interesting to hear how like that kind of helped you get on a mission.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like listening to that story, that totally makes sense. You're taking 2 years away from the sport that they're like trying to win.
Yeah.
Like how can you just do that? And I think it's the beauty of going to school in Utah, but also kind of a challenge for people outside of Utah.
Yeah, for sure. So talking to Utah State, talking to Weber State, how did that start? Like, did you email them, reach out to them? Did they reach out to you just after like you performed well, or how did that work?
Yeah, so my high school times really weren't amazing, especially when I started talking to track coaches, and then COVID hit, and so I didn't get a senior season. So that's when the pressure is on. I don't really have anything to show.
Yeah.
I have my junior times, my first full year of running track, but other than that, nothing more. Thankfully, I got super lucky. My dad being the track coach, and he was a very successful track coach. He won 8 state championships in a row. Coach of the year,
That's crazy.
For a few years, and so he had a lot of connections. And thankfully I was able to kind of use those connections and find Coach Hogan. She's worked with a lot of the successful athletes from Desert Hills, and so she took a chance on me. Coach Talley, the head men's coach, took a chance on me, sent me an offer down, and it ended up working out for that year.
That's awesome. So were you like committed to Weber before you went on your mission?
Yeah.
Okay.
I signed in April, maybe May.
Gotcha. Cool. Here's a question for you. How would you say like your mission impacted your athletics? Would you say it did?
Oh my gosh, tremendously. It's like night and day. So before the mission, I still learn a lot and I'm still growing, but like before the mission, I was just very immature. I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to just be the best at everything. And then you go on a mission and you're around like the best of the best.
Yeah.
And like coming out of high school, I know that it's not sports, but like in my mind, I always want to be the best at what I do. Mm-hmm. You go out there and it's like a slap in the face. Like, wow, you're not really much. Like, you're just a little trainee. You're like learning how to do this mission stuff. And I kind of had like a culture shock, honestly. I was in Houston. So like, but like just the work environment, the ethic that these guys have, the accomplishments, it kind of hit me.
Yeah.
And so humbled me a lot to just be working with those people, understand like the insight that they give. And then taking that from my mission plus the 2 years of like physical maturity and mental maturity and then running it into track, the habits were completely different than what I did in high school. And so huge impact on my track career was from my mission as well.
That's super cool. Was it hard to like get back into things once you got back? Were you like making a conscious effort on the mission to like
I really
stay
wasn't,
in shape?
Especially towards the end of my mission. I mean, you kind of lose yourself in the work, and then you realize you come home. You're realizing you're coming home, but not really.
Yeah.
You know, like until you're on the plane, it's like, this is just kind of what I'm doing. I just got to go through whatever I'm going through, and then we'll start tomorrow and do the exact same thing. And so like working out wise, I wasn't really making an effort to like be fast. You know, there was days of motivation. You wake up at 6:30. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go run a few miles, and you get a mile and a half in, and you're like, never mind. I still got 2 months. But coming home off the mission, I was able to take some of those habits of like waking up at 6:30 and like working out right away, and then, you know, having practice and just like being on a very strict schedule that propelled me into season. So once I did have a really strict schedule, because I came home in June and went straight up to college and just started working, kind of tried to keep my regiment and just convert it into an athletic regiment rather than a spiritual regiment. Right. And so, yeah, I definitely got into a shape that made it easier to acclimate into my track season.
Gotcha.
But yeah, probably should have done more.
That's really cool, because I feel like, I don't know, at least me personally, I don't know if others would agree, is like I would view the mission as a step back in terms of athletics. Kind of like I mentioned before, like you're not going to be working out as much as you would be before. You don't have as much control over your diet as you would before. And it's just like you mentioned, like when you're in a mission, like you're just locked in, like there's one singular purpose. And I have felt like in order to kind of be a successful missionary, you have to kind of leave your past in the past, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool that you mentioned the benefits that the mission brought you of like being able to like keep a good schedule, like be completely all in and like working towards your athletic goals, and also the mentality that you're able to obtain of like hard work and a hard work ethic through the mission, which I think is really sick.
Yeah. And, you know, there were times on my mission where I really wanted to just be doing track stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely comes across your mind when you're just sitting in a church building, especially during COVID, you know, sitting in a church building, kind of calling home. And they're talking about things that aren't on the mission. I'm like, dang it, I wish I could just be playing soccer, running track, or playing football. But, I mean, 10 pounds in 2 years of, just maturity, and 2 inches, it helps, especially in track and field. It helps. But I have met people that haven't had that same experience. I'm really lucky in the way that I acclimated, because some people come off the mission and they just can't swing it. Their bodies,
it's true, take
that time off, and it's hard to get back into it. But I'm one of the lucky ones for sure.
That's awesome. So you get back from your mission, like you mentioned, you go straight up, start working on getting ready for track at Weber State. Tell me a little bit about your first year at Weber.
It was good. I loved it. It was the best thing for me. It was where I needed to be. Coach Talley, the head coach, was a phenomenal coach, man, father figure. He was just a stand-up guy. He did the most for everyone. Like, even people that he wasn't necessarily expected to take care of, he took care of. And so that was really nice for me coming into this cutthroat college scene, because anywhere else, if you don't perform, you're not getting the attention you need. Which is sad to say, but at the same time, that's their job, is to get results. And so kind of going up there and seeing like what it's like to be a D1 athlete, what it's like to go through a college season, it just made me want to work that much harder for him, for myself, and for my family. It's an opportunity to represent a lot of people when you're up there. Even just at Weber State, it's a smaller D1 school, but you still got a lot of people cheering for you. And so it was a good first season. I got a lot accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
Enough to get to BYU, which is a top 10 program in the nation. They took 10th at nationals last year, and so it was good. It was it was where I needed to be to grow the most I could.
That's really cool. What is being a D1 athlete like? Like, what is something that maybe I wouldn't understand or that we wouldn't know if we didn't ask?
Well, when people say it's a full-time job, like, legally, like, NCAA regulation says you can only practice 20 hours a day. I mean, a day.
That'd be crazy.
20 hours a week.
Uh-huh.
And they'll send you surveys. They'll say, you got to fill this out.
Mm-hmm.
Did you actually only spend 20 hours a week? Did you do anything like that? And you think 20 hours a week, that's a part-time job.
Yeah.
But it's just the little things that you have to do, the extra meetings that you have to go to. And so it's the little commitments, but it's also all up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could get fired from your job, and I guess you could get kicked off the track team, but you can't just do the bare minimum. To give you like a rundown of my schedule, so I wake up, we had weights this morning I had it at 7:45 because I have an extra class, but we have an hour-long weight session that goes over an hour. But
what do you guys normally hit? Like
leg day every day.
Leg day every day. That's crazy.
Leg day every day. So we'll do something explosive. So Mondays are squat day and clean day.
Okay.
Which cleans are essential, super explosive. And then we go snatch, which is the one where you just throw it over your head.
Yeah.
Starts deadlift, throw it over your head. And then today we did jerks. And so, I mean, we're hitting, like, our main lift is legs every day. But we do an hour of weights 3 times a week. We have practices that are 2 hours that, again, go over. Especially, like technical stuff. They go over. We have those every day. We have mental strength meetings. But, like, I'm there an hour before practice, getting treatment, doing PT, working on my body, making sure it's like warm. So when I go out there and warm up, we're good.
Yeah.
And then I go in after and do another hour of, rehab, treatments, stuff like that, get my body worked on again to cool down, and then I'm out. And so we're talking, you got an hour in the morning, and then I'm there at 12 and there until 5, just working on that stuff. And so to just put that into perspective, like 3 of those hours are like me.
Yeah.
Like I have to do them. And it's not just me that does them, it's like that's just what athletes do. It's just take care of themselves. And so when people say it's a full-time job, it's like if a full-time job was 20 hours, but you have to work 40-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's the coolest part about it, though, is because there's always something else you can do that's not like physically
that's not
demanding,
just running,
and it's the little things that make a team. And the culture here at BYU just it takes that and runs with it. It's so good at doing the extra thing in order to get yourself better, if that makes sense.
And I'd say that's true. Like, I imagine not only in track, but just the community in general is like people, whatever discipline it is that they're working in, people here work hard.
Oh yeah.
They're very driven.
There's a reason BYU has the reputation it does. I mean, in academics and everything else.
It's such a fun environment to be in just because you're surrounded by so many people that are passionate about stuff. Like, I love the passion that I feel as I interact with people in the community. And
just the pride, like, at Weber, there's people that have pride, but here it's different. There's people going to every sporting event. I mean, our women's soccer they're crazy. It's crazy. They're so good, yes, but it's like any other top 25 program in the nation does not sell out every game. Yeah. Like, we were selling out consistently, and I mean, that's just one example of how prideful everyone is about BYU sports. That's funny you mentioned that, because I literally got a text today from one of my buddies. He's like, "Hey, do you want to hit the BYU swim meet today?" Yep. And I was like, "I'll be there." I was like, "Where else? What other school would you have people hitting people up to go hit the swim meet?" Like, it's crazy. Yeah, and you see all those people just around, and I don't know, they're just asking you when your next meet is or where you're traveling, and you're asking them. And so it's like everyone kind of stays on top of each other's schedules. Yeah. I mean, you interact with everyone. And so at Weber, that wasn't a thing. I never saw other people. No one ever showed interest in track and field. I mean, it's not the most glamorous sport, but if it's not football, no one's going.
Yeah.
So
I actually wanted to ask a question kind of down that line. Like, what would you say is the biggest difference from Weber and BYU? Would it be like the fan pride?
There's a lot of differences. That's a huge one. I would say just the social scene.
Okay.
People seem a lot more excited to be social down here. And genuinely, it's not like there's too much more to do in regard to like activities.
Yeah.
But people are just so down to find things to do. The social scene at Weber is a lot different. It's kind of a commuter school. If you grew up in Ogden, Weber is a great choice. You're just going to live with your parents. You're going to drive in, go home, hang out with your high school friends, which is awesome. I mean, Weber State's a phenomenal institution to do that, you know? But here it's like, I'm getting knocks on my door and people are just coming, hey, we're trying to meet new people.
Yeah.
That's so weird. That's so weird. But like at the same time, that's so cool that like we just get, like that's kind of normal. You know, it just, people want to talk. People want to get to know each other. And I've made so many cool friends off just the weirdest interactions. Like,
yeah, it's true.
It's just people are, the circumstance you're in leads to friendship.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen. I would bet that doesn't happen anywhere else.
No, I agree. I'll share an experience super quick. About a week ago, I went to a birthday party of my roommate's girlfriend's roommate. So I knew like no one there.
Okay.
I walk in, and as I walk in, my roommate and his girlfriend are like, Wilson. And I was like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? And I just like go to the back, like grab a drink or something. And this guy walks up to me. He puts his hand on my shoulder. And he's like, what is your name? And I was like, Wilson. He's like, dude, my name is Wilson. And then we ended up talking for like 30 minutes. He's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put you in a group chat. I know another Wilson. And we're going to go grab lunch. I literally went today and just ate lunch with 2 other Wilsons.
Just because your name.
Just because our name is Wilson.
And that's so cool. Like genuinely, like you could just make friends anywhere. There's no like.
It's so friendly here.
Yeah, there's no prerequisite to friendship where it's like you have to know this person or you have to have this many followers on Instagram or you have to do this certain thing.
Right.
It's just, you guys got the same name. Like that's all it is.
Yeah. Super funny.
Beautiful culture.
Yeah. So what, I didn't ask, what kind of was the process going from Weber to BYU? Like, were you kind of in communication with the coaches during your season, or how did that all come to be?
So NCAA actually just changed rules sometime while I was on my mission, I believe.
For transferring? For
the transfer portal. There's certain times that you can enter the transfer portal. And quick tidbit about track, there's technically 2 track seasons.
Okay.
So there's winter track season and there's the spring season, which is outdoor. Right now we're in winter or indoor season.
Yeah.
And so you can enter the transfer portal, but you only have a certain amount of time to enter it. I entered it in March.
Okay. Of this 2023?
Of 2023.
Okay.
Weird. Yeah, so I entered in March. And I mean, right away, I had a pretty stellar freshman season at Weber. Like for my, for me.
Yeah,
you know,
you did great.
It was good for me.
Yeah, I mean, you ended up here, so obviously you did very well.
And so like right away, I kind of had some coaches, you know, some interest in other places. I started talking to some coaches. They started calling me, getting my number. But like growing up, it was BYU. You know? I wanted to play soccer at BYU. That was like my dream as a 9-year-old coming to BYU soccer camp.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, that would be so cool. And so like that was always the goal. And even in high school, I sent them my times. They didn't even look at me in high school. But
bummer.
Yeah, whatever. It worked out. Like I said, I needed to be there. But I put my stuff in. I got offers from a lot. Well, just talking to a bunch of different schools. I didn't communicate with a lot of schools enough to just get offers thrown around, you know. But,
yeah.
You know, I was talking to some pretty big programs, top 25 programs that were like, hey, if you hit these times for outdoor, we'll pull you in.
Yeah.
Like we'll ship you out. You don't have to worry about anything. We'll have everything covered. But BYU was not giving me the time of day. And it's so funny because I'm running at BYU like every other week. I mean, Weber's not a big enough school to just go to Texas and go to Florida and travel. And so I'm like running at BYU every week. And for some reason, they're just not texting me back. I have Coach Kyle's number, which is my coach. I have his number in my phone before I'm even going to BYU. I'm like texting this guy, like, dude, like,
give me a shot.
Come on, like you're one of the only ones that hasn't even like responded to me. I mean, I had some pretty big schools responding to me, and so yeah, that didn't happen, and he just didn't text me. At the very end of my freshman year, my outdoor season wasn't as good. Like my indoor season was so good, and then my outdoor season kind of lacked. He calls me out of the blue, and he's like, hey, I know you're interested. You have like 15 minutes in like a few days. Like, what are you doing this Friday? I'm like, oh, nothing. He's like, okay, I'm going to give you another call. I just wanted to make sure like we're on the same page that way. But set time aside. So he calls me. And during this time, I'm like filtering through some of the offers I have, and none of them were like clicking. You know, none of them were interesting me. Except for the one that was stay at Weber, you know, and Coach Talley made it really hard for me to leave, but Coach Talley offered me even more money, a better position, you know, would help me with housing and put me with the people that I wanted to be put with.
This is at Weber?
This was at Weber.
Okay.
And then the UVU coach called me. We talked for a minute, and he threw out a number that was just a little too small. But then BYU calls me, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, if BYU offers me and their tuition is that cheap anyway, we're just going to take it and see what happens. Knowing what UVU offered me and knowing that BYU is a better program. I mean, and just based off times, a better program for track and field. If they offer me somewhere around that ballpark that UVU offered me, I'll take it, and I'll just come down to Provo and I'll go from there, because I knew they were going Big 12, so they're getting a lot more scholarship money, or so I thought. I actually don't know the logistics of it all, but they're getting a lot more opportunity like that, and I'll get to go to a lot bigger meets, a lot bigger places, have a lot bigger names coaching me. BYU calls me, and they triple what UVU offered.
No way.
It was so cool. And he was just so nice about it. He's like, here's what we're going to do. Basically told me my position on the team. And then he goes, take a week. Think about it. Gather all the information you need to gather about us, and then call me.
That's cool.
Took me 12 hours. It took me 12 hours. I called him back. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to take it. He's like, wow, that was fast. I'm like, I could have told you I was going to take it yesterday, but I just didn't want to seem like
too desperate.
Yeah, like desperate. And so that's kind of the story. I mean, since then I haven't really looked back.
Yeah, it's been all in. That's awesome. I'm curious, like, with the new NIL like landscape, like, are there people on the team, you included, that like have legitimate NIL opportunities to like make money?
Yeah, and BYU actually helps us a lot with that. They give us opportunities to find NILs. NILs kind of only benefit those with a lot of followers.
Okay.
People that are into social media, which, I mean, that's difficult.
Yeah.
You know, that's another job in and of itself.
No, it is.
And so people that are willing to do that obviously deserve the NIL stuff. But it also kind of gives you an opportunity to play off of your connections. The only NIL that I have is one of my friend's dad's companies. It's called Black Label. It's a supplement company. I used it well before I got an NIL from it.
Yeah. But
it was like always my favorite, and so it just gives you that little opportunity to just tap into those connections. And it gives them an opportunity to support the community. I mean, Black Label is growing so big right now. I think they're one of the official sponsors for Idaho State athletics.
Oh, wow. That's
so they're
cool.
like growing, and it's helping that company grow. So more than helping athletes, it's also helping little smaller companies. But there are people, I know people on the football team and at Weber, NIL.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Really?
Because they play in a little bit different category, but the cheer team is, consistently top in the nation, and so
that's super interesting.
Yeah, they're working that NIL stuff, and it's benefiting everyone. I mean, it's benefiting Weber State because it's more than just, oh, they're good at cheer. It's like, oh, now they have people that are famous getting paid by these. I mean, Bangs posting Weber State cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And people wonder who Weber State is, and so I personally like it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that goes against NIL side. And I understand that side of it too. It kind of takes away from specific aspects of the sports. But
it's definitely super interesting, like just how college athletics are structured after NIL.
Yeah, it's changed.
Because, like, I don't know. I forget where I was going with this thought. But it's just, like, interesting how much money, like, how a school that can focus on NIL can offer an athlete so much more money through it, or, like, promise so many financial opportunities. Like, I just think about, like, I don't know, if you were given an option to, like, you were thinking about leaving Weber and you were looking at BYU, UVU, whatever, and UVU was like, we can offer you this much money in scholarship, but we'll promise you this opportunity with this school or this business that's going to offer you like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, that just kind of changes athletes' decision making, I feel like, or it potentially could.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I mean, people go where the money is,
and I don't blame them either.
I don't either. I mean, that's what we're here to do right now. Is like, I mean, if I'm not playing sports, I'm at a job trying to make money anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think it is that opportunity of like, oh, now I can do both. At the same time, it's kind of hard. It does change the landscape, and there's growing pains. I mean, you can look those up. Google NIL negative impacts. You're gonna find so many.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, until it changes, why not?
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got some people making money in college sports now, and that's never happened before. You can get a lot more recognition. It's nice for smaller sports too. Yeah. Because, like, I mean, track and field is pretty well known. Like, people know what track and field is. That being said, the professional scene in track and field, you're not gonna sign contracts that Patrick Mahomes can.
Yeah.
You're not getting that recognition. People aren't watching enough to get that recognition.
Yeah.
And so with that, if you do have a following, it's like, whether it's track and field or not, if I'm running track and have followers and can actually make money, it also it puts me on, and women's sports. I think it's good for women's sports too, because now they get an opportunity to do that as well. It puts us on a level playing field with the football athletes, with the basketball athletes, with the big names that that are going pro, that are going to make money anyway.
That's awesome. That's a good leeway into kind of my next question. So I have little to like no knowledge. Like, you go to school for football, you end up in the NFL. Like, what is the professional track and field landscape look like? Like, what is next for a collegiate athlete that wants to go pro?
It's all about the deals you sign.
Yeah.
There's a professional track league called Diamond League.
Okay.
And it's like, the goal is to run in that, but the biggest stage is the Olympics.
Right.
And so Diamond League is just a way for the people that can't compete in college to run against each other. It's a professional atmosphere. There's, the big names go to Diamond League.
Yeah.
But, like, they're all in preparation for the Olympics. And so, yeah, you'll get paid to go to these meets. They'll fly you out to these meets. But, like, you're not going to make millions of dollars.
Right.
You have to sign deals. And so, I mean, we have a few people on the team that are good enough. They're pros now. They were on the team. They signed deals with Nike.
Oh, sweet.
So they're on Nike's payroll, basically, and that's how they're making their money professionally. They got to meet certain requirements. I don't know if that's run races. I don't know. I haven't really
looked into it too much.
Yeah, I'm not at that level quite yet.
It's also just your second year.
Yeah.
Doing track in college.
There's time to do research on that, but if it doesn't happen, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that. There's other opportunities, but yeah, it's kind of it's the deals that you sign. It's the people that you meet.
Gotcha. That's super cool. Believe it or not, we're starting to near the end of the podcast.
Okay.
And for those that have listened to previous episodes, something that I like to do kind of towards the end is give the person being interviewed an opportunity to just kind of share whatever. That can be along the lines of something that we talked about today, something that you wanted to talk about today and didn't have the opportunity, or just kind of whatever comes to mind. I like to leave it pretty open-ended. And take your time.
One thing that I've been thinking about a lot, so on the BYU track team, there's a lot of very, very fast kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny to listen to their accomplishments because they're just so crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just hear these people like, oh, I won National Gatorade Player of the Year. Oh, I took third at the Nike Worlds, or,
yeah,
you know, I went to Ecuador because I ran for the national team. It's just stuff like that, and it's crazy to hear. I ran, I'll give you times. My PR was a 15.3 in the 110 hurdles, which I know that means nothing to you. But
yeah.
a 15.3 in the 110 hurdles, I probably ran like a 52.400. That was coming out of high school. Put that in perspective. BYU doesn't recruit anyone that's running over 48 seconds in the 400.
Oh, wow.
So you got to cut off. I had to cut off 4 seconds. They don't recruit anyone who's running over 14.4, 14. I mean, that's if they recruit someone that's running 14.4. And so that being said, you compare my accomplishments to their accomplishments. I took third in the 4A classification in the state of Utah.
Mm-hmm.
But I was willing to just grind. I was willing to just work it out. And that's probably one of like my proudest accomplishments more than anything is like being that speed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Never even having a chance to run against these guys because they were so much better than me.
Yeah.
But now I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, lining up against them. And so it's like it puts me in a mindset like I can do anything. You know, like if I'm just willing to grind, I can do anything. And, you know, if that means not getting a senior year, going to Weber State, and then going to BYU eventually, like if you're willing to just put your mind to something, like it will happen if it's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And so, you can do anything, honestly, and it's going to work out.
Yeah.
It's going to work out as long as you love what you're doing and have a good attitude about it and you're coachable and you do it right. You can make big things happen. So
no, I totally agree. Thanks so much for sharing that. I think it's definitely very true, especially here at BYU. There's, like we mentioned, there's so many amazing people. They're passionate, they're hardworking, and they've been successful in their life. And it's very easy, you know, whether it's track, whether it's like me in the advertising, you know, program, you know, whatever it is, there's people that have done amazing things and have accomplished amazing things. And it's very easy to, you know, have that like imposter syndrome or just kind of compare yourself, try to stack yourself against them. And I think it's cool that you mentioned like it will happen if it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like I think that God kind of recognizes our efforts and he knows the desires of our hearts. Like he knows what we want, but he also knows what's best for us. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is so cool is that our efforts, whether we achieve the goal we set out to do or not, they are appreciated. And that I think is just so important. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and end there. Thank you so much, G, for your time.
Thank you for
your thoughts. Super fun. And good luck with the rest of this season and your time at BYU.
Of course. I appreciate it.
Cool.